What good is that hefty paycheck? What good is that retirement plan, those benefits, any perks that came with that job if we don't have a country at the end of the day to enjoy that money in? What good is my retirement if my children don't have freedom? And that to me was like, wow, I will run through every last penny that I have to save this country. And I think more and more people, Jan, are waking up to that. We saw it with, think of the healthcare workers who were forced out of a job. They were forced to either get the jab or leave. And many of them did get the jab. They didn't feel they could leave at that time for whatever reason. Maybe it was they had to put food on the table and they had to feed their children. Obviously, that's a stressful, difficult choice to make. But others said, I'm walking away. I had just had somebody reach out and said, I went through 3 jobs during all of that. I'm not making as much money as I used to make, but you know what? I've got my principles intact. Mm-hmm. And I did the right thing. And you know what? My health is intact too.
And this was, and we knew this was sort of an insane thing to do, like policy, because these were the people that were, most likely to have natural immunity. They're in close proximity to people with COVID all the time. So basically all of them almost had natural immunity or were likely to, or had innate immunity, can never get infected. And those are the people you're going to fire. There were so many examples. Now,
things that didn't make sense. The airline workers, I mean, talk about being around people and having immunity. They're around every germ you could imagine all day with their job. And they were being forced to get the jab. So none of it made sense. And I decided to walk away. But I did not decide to get into politics until after I walked away. When I finally resigned from my job, I put out a video because I wanted the people of Arizona to know why I was leaving. I didn't want to just walk away from that and disappear and have them wonder. I wanted them to know, look, I'm leaving this career because something is not right. And you see it, I see it, I know it. And so I put this video out just to let the good viewers who had invited me into their homes for nearly 30 years, I put that out to let them know. And what I didn't expect was it would go viral within a matter of hours.
Well, and you said you don't like the direction, if I recall, that the media is going in. And so, but the media have been, liberal, as you said, for quite a long time. I mean, I don't think, but there's something different, right? Something changed.
Something much bigger. I think it went from, low-level bias. At least I always felt like I could keep it on the straight and narrow because I was the last line of defense. When you're the anchor, you're reading the stories, you're talking to the viewer about it. And I always felt like I could kind of make sure we were putting out an unbiased product. But I think during COVID, and I'm not the only one in the media who felt like, wow, there's no control about what's being put out right now. We're being controlled by the government. We're being controlled by Fauci. And that's where I think it went from a little bit on the low scale to boom, maxing out on just propaganda in a very short amount of time, in a matter of weeks and months.
So you're initially no interest in politics. I remember you had a very different kind of job actually lined up at the time. But then people came out. I mean, this is what I remember you telling me.
I was actually planning to go work and do some media training for an organization that I care deeply about and that does great things. And I thought, I had a great career. I'm just going to say what a great career I had, chalk it up as that's the end of my broadcast career, and I'll move on to something a little more behind the scenes, which I was totally ready to do, be behind the scenes. Actually, I was kind of looking forward to being behind the scenes. After being in the public eye for a long time, it sounded attractive to be behind the scenes. And then an amazing thing happened. I put that video out. It went viral overnight. Thousands and thousands of messages came in over the course of the next 3 weeks, month. And they were so kind, really overwhelmingly wonderful, positive messages. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for covering our state so fairly for so many years. Thank you for telling us what's happening in the media. But one of the common threads that was very common, it was like a steady drumbeat, was, would you please consider running for office? We need people in politics who we trust, who understand the issues of our state, who understand us. And the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and we trust you to get in there and clean things up. And at first, I'm going to be honest, I laughed. The first few messages I saw that said, get into politics, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I'm just leaving the corrupt world of media, and they're suggesting I go into the even more corrupt world, the swamp of politics. They must think I'm insane. And I had zero interest in it, but then it was such a steady drumbeat that I thought, wow, maybe this is God's way of tapping me on the shoulder and saying, I freed you up for this.
Well, and so before we jump deeper into issues, because there's a ton I want to cover with you here, but let's talk about that. How important does God or the divine fit into your picture here?
More and more important every second of every day. I'm so blessed that I was brought up in a household where faith was important. My mother was Catholic, my father was Lutheran, so I got confirmed in both churches, and we went to Sunday school every week. And, you know, that's how it was back when I was growing up. Pretty much every kid had some sort of a religious foundation, something to base in their life what is right and wrong. And I'm so blessed to have grown up in that kind of a family. And of course, in my 20s and 30s, I kind of strayed away after working, you know, a long week and being busy with the kids. I would, you know, just hang out on the weekends with them. But I've always felt a connection to God, a very close connection. And frankly, interestingly, it was during COVID that I ended up switching churches, because the church that we belonged to was closed for COVID and open by appointment only. And that was when I was going through all of this, really struggling. I remember thinking, we need to get our butts into a church right now. I just felt that need. And I ended up stumbling into a different church, and that church really opened my eyes and changed my life. But during that COVID time, I was working from home because half of the staff went home and half stayed at the station just in case we got COVID and we didn't want to, you know, get everybody sick. And so I was working from home, and I was finding myself listening to pastors on YouTube and listening to different sermons, and I was finding myself reading the Bible a lot more and really leaning on the Bible, which I hadn't read since I was young, since I'd gone through confirmation. And so to have all of this life experience from reading the Bible when I was young in confirmation class, to fast forward, now I'm in my 50s, all of that life that has happened, and I find myself opening up the Bible and reading it. In the meantime, I'm also reading news scripts over here, the Bible here, and I'm like, wow, in the news scripts are lies. In the Bible, I found the truth. And so it was really a very powerful period for me spiritually during COVID. And I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people have returned and wrapped their arms around, I don't want to just even call it religion, but around God.